Hey everyone, and welcome to Campus Pulse, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater College of Business and Economics. I'm Jessica Berge, and this is where we shine a light on the people and ideas that make Kobe tick. In every episode, we're sitting down with the faculty, staff, and innovators who are doing the real work, the research projects you've never heard about, the new programs being built, the teaching experiments happening right now. Whether you're a student, part of our Kobe family, or just curious about what really goes on inside of a business college, this show is for you. So let's dive in. Hey everyone, and welcome to Campus Pulse. I'm Jessica Berge. What if I told you that a UW-Whitewater student organization has directly impacted the lives of over 1.5 million people in the last 5 years? That they've empowered women in Guatemala, revitalized main streets in rural Wisconsin, and helped combat blindness in India? And that they just returned from representing the United States at the Enactus World Cup in Bangkok, Thailand, as the reigning U.S. national champions. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Choton Basu, a professor of information technology and supply chain management and the faculty advisor behind UW-Whitewater's Enactus team. If you haven't heard of Enactus, you're about to. It's a global organization that uses business as a force for good, not greed. And our students are proving that you can build sustainable solutions while making a real difference in the world. We're going to talk about what Enactus does, how UWW became a 2-time national champion, and what it means when business students and students from across campus decide to apply what they're learning to solve real problems for real people. So let's dive in. Dr. Basu, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start. Thank you so much. And what is Enactus, and what does it mean to use business as a force for good?
I'm going to take us back 50 years. Originally, it started as students in free enterprise. A lot of the large companies like Walmart, Unilever, and many of their partners came together and they formed this organization. You're exactly right. It's a global organization, started in US. And the students were doing exactly the way you defined it, business as a force of good, right? So that's what they ended up starting as. Not nonprofit, but using business to kind of make a difference in the lives of others. Over the years, they went through a rebranding and Enactus emerged. It stands for Entrepreneurial Action Us. That's where it came out of. So that's what it is. It's still a global organization. I believe there's right now 33 or 34 countries involved.
Wow.
And each country runs their own national competition. And we'll talk a little bit, I'm sure, about our run this year and winning the national competition in the USA. And then you end up going to a World Cup where all the top teams from these 33, 34 countries show up and you crown a Enactus World Cup champion. So very exciting. And the students and the work they do throughout the year kind of culminates in this national competition followed by the World Cup. And it's extremely impactful. So
That's
that's
exciting.
It is.
Can you tell me a little bit about business as a force for good? Besides that tagline, what is that?
Sure. I'll start it on a personal note
Sure.
and then go from there. So I grew up in India and I still remember listening to a very interesting band named Midnight Oil. And they used to do music as a force of good. So they used to use music to get their point across. So I was very intrigued when an Enactus was brought to me by one of the people I know. There's a business leader, Peter Layton, ex-Goldman Sachs, and he sat on the board of Enactus for a very long time. So he asked me, like, why don't we have Enactus at UW-Whitewater? And I said, what is Enactus? So I ended up learning from him. And to me, initially, the business as a force of good was like, okay, I mean, what is this? Are we talking about simply project management, building an app for somebody, doing fundraising? What it turns out is the business as a force of good is balancing three things, which is what Enactus likes to call people, planet, profit, or prosperity. Those three, the three P's. The idea is, can you create a business or can you take an existing business and help them come up with a business model using all the business skills, right? All the force of business in such a way that you not only are profitable and prosperity, you create jobs and all stuff, but you also could have a social and environmental impact. If you can balance those three, you are an ultimate Enactus business. And that's what we strive for. And of course, the point is that if you can get those three to happen, it leads to sustainability.
Wonderful. This sounds exciting. So you're the faculty advisor for this organization, but it is a student-led organization. So what does it actually look like in practice?
Okay, I'll break that up into two parts. As a faculty advisor, my job is to give them direction. And I
Mhm.
try to bring in other mentors and other faculty advisors also, because obviously I'm biased and I'm limited with my knowledge, right? So I try to bring in different people from time to time, and our job is to guide them. There's also something that doesn't get talked about very much, something called a BAB, Business Advisory Board. And these are
Mhm.
industry people who also advise the students and guide them. The student's job is to actually execute on the project. So this is not a competition on ideas. It's not an ideation, competition. It's about doing real work, taking the idea, bringing it to implementation, and showing what impact you had.
Mhm.
And that's what the student's role is. So our job is to help facilitate them, guide them, hopefully help them make mistakes and learn from them.
Mhm.
But the execution of the project is by the students.
Where do the ideas come from?
Multiple places. Sometimes some of the best ideas we have seen over the years are typically it's typically one student who
Mhm.
is very passionate about something. It could be something as broad as poverty. It could be something to do with very specific one, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on. We are talking about, let's say, preventable blindness,
Mhm.
correct? Which is one of the projects we won in 2021 with. So it could be something that specific. In other cases, we have companies or organizations approach us, and we try to make sure that it's a good fit for what we are doing. It comes from there, and once in a while, it's come from the faculty also, because we have our own networks and connections, and we bring those to the students and say, is this something that is of interest to you?
Mhm. Okay. So UW-Whitewater just won the 2025 U.S. National Championship. This was your second national championship in
Correct.
5 years. So you just got back from the World Cup in Bangkok. Can you take me back to Kansas City when you found out you won the nationals? What was that moment like?
It was incredible, because even though we won in 2021, it was during the COVID years.
Mhm.
So we were actually competing using video. So we didn't actually get to be on stage and get asked the questions and so on. We'd do a video recording. It doesn't diminish the project. It was an incredible project, and had massive impact, and sustainable. But this year, it truly came together, where I think the students who've been working so hard, and the advisors,
Mhm.
everybody, that it actually came together at Kansas City, and it was a very emotional moment, and all the hard work, because when we started the Enactus journey back in 2009, we didn't know what we were doing,
Mhm.
and we were not even in the top 50 teams in the country, and we didn't know how to break into top 50, but we got better and we learned and so on. So now the team is very strong, and we have them teaching each other and moving forward. So to see all of this come together. There was particularly two or three students who had worked on trying to win a national competition for 3 years and been denied.
Mhm.
And so for them, it was just this amazing moment.
Right. And for our anyone who might be listening, Tom, when you talk about the team, about how many people did you take to Bangkok with you?
So for Bangkok, we took 22 people.
Right. I just kind of wanted to put that scope out there because
Yeah,
I'm aware that how large this actually
that's
is.
right.
So I wanted to share
That's
that.
right. That's right. Yeah, and Enactus USA, which once you win the national competition, Enactus USA, you become the U.S. champion. So
Mhm.
Enactus USA, which runs the national competition, now actually funds the presenters and the advisor. And then we were able to talk to our dean and some of the other advisory board members, and they were able to fund us to take these extra students, which was perfect, because most countries come with multiple 20, 30 people,
Mhm.
because many of those students are now leaders this year, right?
Right.
So they are taking it over.
Hmm.
So it's so important to keep that continuity going. For nationals, I think we've taken about 30 students,
Okay.
and then for Bangkok, we're able to take 22.
That's fantastic. So, what sets your team apart this year? What made the judges say that Whitewater was the best in the nation?
I think there were two aspects that, based on the judges' questions, but then also debriefing with them afterwards. The first one was the fact that we actually did something that Enactus loves to see, which is we launched our own company.
Hmm.
So they like to see that, because then it becomes real. So it's not just a project for somebody else. It was actually a company that is owned by the students and the people who are involved with it. And basically, they like to see that it's that real.
Hmm.
So that I think we drove home that point that this is our company. We're proud of it. We're trying to make it profitable, and we're doing the stuff. So they
It
loved
wasn't an
it.
idea, it was
Correct.
actual.
It was
Hmm.
very, very real. It was set up as a benefit corporation and stuff, as the judges loved that. The second part of it was the impact,
Hmm.
because what they felt was we were able to clearly show how our process worked, how it impacted communities. We had several examples in our presentation of people that were impacted. What was interesting is one of our people that we impacted in the national competition, she and her son actually went with the team to Bangkok. She showed up by herself. So it was very interesting that at the World Cup, the judges were like, "You look familiar." It
Hmm.
was because her videos were up there
Oh,
and it was
sure.
her story we got to tell. So it was very powerful.
Okay. So we'll kind of break down the project into pieces because
Sure.
we have a few to talk about. So the first project, you took two to the national championship,
Correct.
and one of them was called Pro Shapina. Can you tell me about this partnership with women in Guatemala?
Correct. Prochopina has been a project that we've been involved with for a pretty long time. It was, I think, about 5, 6 years ago, a nonprofit out of Guatemala called La Union approached us because they were working with single mothers and they were trying to figure out how to support them. And they were nonprofits, so it was not a great fit for Enactus.
Hmm.
But we continued to try to work with them and stuff. And we said, okay, let's see how we can change the model to make it work. What came together in this last year and a half and why Prochopina emerged is Prochopina was launched as a separate company in Guatemala
Hmm.
with these single mothers involved in the business, and we started helping them. And in fact, we sent a team there to help them start making products that we could help them sell globally.
Hmm.
So it was not a huge success based on what we've seen in the past, but we still got to work with them and do over $20,000 to $22,000 worth of business that we were able to do for them the very first year. But it proved to us that there was something there.
Right.
But that started to come together. So that's what Prochapita was, and we got to present that journey at the national competition.
Hmm. And from a student point of view, it wasn't just the project, it was also the additional trip where you went and you worked with women and you partnered with another student organization on campus, the American Marketing Association. So they had that chance to do collaboration and the travel and the cultural
You nailed it.
experience. Right.
Yeah, I tend to
Hmm.
forget because they're doing so many things, and not only that, they work together with
Hmm.
AMA to help them build their website, to
Right.
their branding, social media. We still manage their website for them, so it's a continued relationship with them. But what we are able to prove out is that there was a business model there.
Hmm.
I will. I'll fast forward here just to kind of give you something interesting about this. When we presented this at nationals, one of the guest speakers who works with single mothers. We didn't know that, and he's got projects all over the world. It's called Young World Foundation. He found out about us, reached out to us before we went to the World Cup, and said, "How do I get involved?"
Hmm.
So we set up a trip for him to go to Guatemala. He went there. He met these women. He got to meet the organization. He said, "This is amazing because when I start these projects, I have to go find my own volunteers. Everything is ready here."
Hmm.
So what we did is we took our other project, which I'm sure we're going to talk about,
Yep.
and we basically worked with him to create a microfinancing program for these women. And we found 5 women to fund through his foundation to start their own businesses.
Hmm.
What is exciting is we already know they were supposed to pay it back over 2 years. In 3 months, they paid back 65% of the loan they were given. So they're all 5 businesses are thriving, and it's incredible to see that happen.
And what a huge impact on the
Yeah.
lives of those women and their families and their
That's correct.
communities.
It's
And
that sustainable
right,
piece, right? Because
right.
now
The
they can,
interconnection.
that's correct. They
Hmm.
can start to run with it.
So that's wonderful. But the primary project that you took to the championships and the one that I know is getting more attention and you're
Yes.
continuing working on is called Renew Towns, and it focuses on revitalizing small town America. And one of the quotes in an article that was done for you was that you said the folks that you hear about in a Springsteen or a Mellencamp song are the ones that are you're really impacting with
Yeah.
this. So tell me about Renew Towns and what that actually does.
So I want to go back to the earlier question about the role of the basically the mentors and
Right.
and 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 the students and stuff. So I have all these weird ways I sometimes try to connect with students, and I happen to be a huge fan of the storytellers like Bruce
Hmm. Hmm.
Springsteen and some of the other absolutely amazing music plays a big role in my life. And I see these people every day when you're driving through and you see these small towns and you see these shuttered, buildings and stuff. And the students can see that too, right? It's
Hmm. Hmm.
very evident. This is not hidden. It's right in front of you. And many of them come from small towns. So when we first started telling them that there was a way to bring back what is called vibrant communities, can we start working on that? I think there was some hesitation because it's such a big project. And how
Hmm.
can a group of students in Whitewater bring back businesses to downtown America, like in different communities. So we started with some pilots and they started to see the results. And from there, it just took off. And I think the students, once they started going to a couple of these sessions and meeting with the community members, all I had to do was to step back because you could see their personal connections start to form and they were completely dedicated to it.
Can you give me a concrete example? Walk me through one of the towns, say Fort Atkinson or Cambridge or Wauwatosa, and what happened there.
Yeah, so the Fort Atkinson probably to me is the poster child
Okay.
of what happened very well last year. Number one, so we've learned this over a period of time. When we go into a community, we look for three things, because the three groups that we want to make sure are on board for us to be successful. Number one. The people who are funding the project. So it's not a huge amount of money. It's to the level they want. I mean, is it one storefront you want to fill up? Do you want to do multiple storefronts and so on? And so whoever's funding it, it could be a high net worth individual, it could be the city, it could be the chamber, it could be the foundation. And Ford, it turned out to be the city, matched with some funding from the Ford Foundation. So they came up with a little over 30,000 plus dollars, and they wanted to kind of get a community, storefront going. So what we do is we come in there. So that's our first one. We need to find a funder.
Hmm.
Then what we look for is basically landlords who are wanting to get behind this. That actually has become very easy because landlords have these storefronts sitting empty.
Hmm.
For them to kind of get involved and say, yes, I would like to get this filled up, is it's a pretty easy sell when you explain to them. And then the last piece is the community itself. If the community is not behind it, it doesn't matter what I do or the Enactus does or anybody does, we're not going to be able to have the traction. So
Hmm.
Ford, all three came together. We worked with a project champion. She was the director of the chamber there, and she was incredible. And so we kind of went through and did it. So Renew Town's concept is we basically run a storefront pitch competition. That funding that the city comes up with or whoever comes up with is used to give the winner 1 year's worth of free rent.
Hmm.
But in the process of doing that, we run these workshops, which many times the mentors run them because the students need that help, right? To kind of the credibility. And what ends up happening is these people who are participating for the storefront competition attend those. We invite community members to attend, and essentially four, five, six top ideas emerge. Community gets to vote on what those ideas are. And then we put them in front of some judges. They pick a winner. But the beauty of it is not only do you get that one business in there with 1 year's worth of free rent, but now you have four or five other businesses
Hmm.
that have risen to the top that could potentially go into one of those other storefronts. So the idea then is you could keep negotiating with the landlord, you find other funders, and then start to get attraction. So in Fort Atkinson, a dog grooming business, Tidy Tails, ended up winning. And last time I checked, even before we went to the World Cup, 3 months, she was already doing very, very well.
Hmm.
So it was something the community needed and wanted. And it was the perfect example of that. And the last thing I'll leave you with is it led to what is called a ripple effect, which is now more landlords want to get involved. They want to give away many of their storefronts free for 1 year. We have other funders entering the thing saying, we have some funding, maybe you should use that.
Hmm.
Correct.
Hmm.
So when people start to see success like that, they start to get behind it.
Hmm.
So
And the projects just aren't about the business, right? They're about community, dignity, economic revitalization. How do you teach students to think in that way? Or do you need to? Do more have to teach them about the business application?
So great question, by the way. Great question. This is one area we have struggled with
Hmm.
because I think it depends on the exposure of the students. I think the sense of community and the connection, that part comes much easy to them because once they go to these events and they see and you hear the story of the
Hmm.
entrepreneurs and so on, our students are naturally kind of just wired to connect to that. The issue is understanding the overall economic revitalization, what it means, how to measure that, how to explain that. They do struggle with that because I think that is something which is kind of new to them.
Hmm.
Correct.
Hmm.
So it's a different language in some ways and stuff like that. So we get them as close as we can, and some of them want to stay with it. Like one of our alumni who graduated, as we continue working on Renew Towns, he's come back because he loves this so much. He's starting to lead the company,
Hmm.
and
Because
because
it
he
is a
plays a
real
big role.
company now. It
Yep,
exists.
100%.
Right?
And by the way, I forgot to mention this. When we do run this for communities, we do ask them to pay us a stipend to do
Hmm.
this.
Okay.
It's priced at a very reasonable thing, but we want them to put some skin in the game
Right.
and
Have
understand
ownership of it.
that's correct. That we are not
Hmm.
going to do this for free. So
Hmm.
yeah,
We will move on from Renew Towns, but this wasn't a one-time thing, or it wasn't just these three towns, right? Can you tell me a little bit about how
yeah.
this has blown up?
Correct. It literally has blown up. So I
Hmm.
think I'll give you one. I think the biggest one we are working on now this year is in the city of South Milwaukee.
Hmm.
They went through a very stringent process. They had some funding, wanted to know how to use that, and they now want to fill two storefronts. We are halfway through their program and the workshops. The level of interest is incredible. I think the words got around. A lot of newspapers have covered what we have done.
Hmm.
So I think that helped a little bit. But we have been seeing about 22 to 28 business ideas and people with a variety of ideas, like incredible variety of ideas
Hmm.
showing up. Because typically we get a lot of restaurants and, like maybe a couple of other stores, but we're seeing such breadth of ideas. It's quite incredible to watch, and a lot of very smart people, and so I have a lot of hope for South Milwaukee.
That's exciting. And I know that you do also have a list of towns that are waiting for you
That's
to get
correct.
there. So that's an exciting development
Yeah,
as
we had
well.
presented at a rural conference, and we had over 20 communities sign up and want to
Wow.
work with us.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
yeah,
So from one Fort Atkinson onto 20 plus by,
correct.
the near future. That's hugely exciting.
Yep.
So I mentioned in the introduction of this episode that UW-Whitewater and Enactus projects have impacted over 1.5 million people. That's an extraordinary number. Help me understand that scale. How does a student organization reach that many lives? And what was the project that got us there?
Yeah, so this is a very close to my heart
Hmm.
because I sat on the board of a uh, amazing organization out of Madison called Combat Blindness, and they're into preventable blindness. So what they try to do is to help people who are, either starting like doing things to make sure that they don't go blind,
Hmm.
right? Plus, they do things like cataract surgeries and stuff, and I think they're in 18 different parts of the world,
Okay.
multiple countries. So I used to sit on the board of that, and as a nonprofit, I kept telling them that they had to be a better model because every year it seemed like we raised money and we gave it away, and then we had to raise money again. Is there a way to create a more sustainable place to do it? So I have to give them credit. They said, okay, here's some money. They said, can you design a model for us?
Hmm.
So we took that on as an Enactus project, and what we did is we launched this idea. The project is now known as Adya. People can search that. I'll spell it out: AADYA.
Hmm.
If they do a search on Adya and combat blindness, they'll find it immediately. But we ran a program and we picked northern part of India. We first ran a pilot, and then now it's become pretty streamlined and it's used every day. Is we took young women and taught them to use mobile devices, phones, with an app to go from door to door and do eye screening.
Hmm.
In the rural villages in India, over 99% of the people have never had an eye exam. And so what is profound is you find people who need reading glasses. So we made that part of the business model.
Hmm.
Again, business is a force of good,
Hmm.
but sustainable.
Hmm.
So we sell those for roughly about $1, India, about 90 rupees Indian currency. So that creates an income for these young women. And then for the people we found who were blind from cataracts, we referred them to our partners who were willing to, for less than $25, get a surgery done and give them back their eyesight. So you're creating a completely new productive member of the society.
Hmm.
So it's incredibly powerful and stuff. And by the way, on blindness, when somebody's blind in India in the villages, many times the kids in the family stop going to school because they have to hold their hands and walk them around when
Hmm.
they're going out and stuff. So you're really changing two lives almost instantly, right?
Right.
So now what has happened is, just fast forward over the next 2 to 3 years, we have over 84, I think, young women in the program. The program has expanded, multiple locations. Last time I checked, we had done over 1.5 million screenings,
Hmm.
and all that data is going in. I think it's grown at an astronomical rate. I'll just take this to plug combat blindness, and if people can get behind this program, and just understand Whitewater was involved, and they're doing incredible work with it.
Hmm.
So it's at a point where we are able to step back from it, and it's in the good hands.
Right, right. Well, and one of the things I love about that project in particular is you're not only helping with preventable blindness, right?
That's correct.
And Northern India, because it's one of the largest areas where you can help do something about
That's
preventable
correct.
blindness, but also the benefit to the women themselves. You're taking women who don't necessarily have a lot of other options in their
That's
life,
right.
and you're helping them become leaders in their
Well said.
communities.
Well said. Yeah,
Hugely
yeah,
exciting.
we got to. I took a team down to India, and we got to meet.
Hmm.
Students got to meet, and they actually got to go to the villages and meet some of these young women who are extraordinary. And I think a lot of organizations run these volunteer programs. What,
Hmm.
what we have been able to prove is that there is a business model behind this, and this could be used in the right way to collect all kinds of data, all kinds of health data,
Hmm.
and these people become community advocates for health.
Right. No, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan, obviously, of the program.
yeah.
So you've worked on projects in India, combating blindness, in
Yep.
Guatemala, empowering women, in Wisconsin, revitalizing towns. What's the common thread? What is making an Enactus project successful?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we are finding is this, that people, if they're given a direction, if a door can be opened for them, it just will blow your mind about how hungry people are to step through it and make a difference.
Hmm.
And that's universal, I think. And the you just have to do it with. I think you used a couple of phrases earlier about respect and like not going in there and saying we know all the solutions,
Right.
correct? But really creating a platform and a connection. But I think the genius of what I think Enactus does, and this is for every other university also who are participating, is that we are actually working with business models. And Prochapina was a great example of this also, where you're twisting what is already existing by just providing a slightly different way of looking at it.
Hmm.
And that can make the difference. And that's it. I think people are just looking for a chance.
Right.
And that's what it is.
And you're providing a structure to
That's right.
really help inspire. Hmm.
Correct. Correct.
So another striking point about Enactus is that it isn't just for business majors.
That's correct.
You've had creative writing majors, social work majors, Spanish majors on your championship teams. Why is that important?
I think, this is something which I always feel that whenever we talk about, I think there's different kinds of phrases that I use. I know one of the phrases that comes up many times is diversity and things
Hmm.
like that. Bottom line is, if you have a team and that team is really split up, not only across majors, different backgrounds and so on, it's going to be a better team. That's what I've found throughout my life. And I've worked with lots of projects, not just with Enactus, but even corporate teams and so on. The more diverse viewpoints you can bring, it'll lead to better things. So Enactus by itself requires people from different background,
Hmm.
because what ends up happening is when you go and present at nationals, it needs a production team of people doing project management, people doing the graphics, people doing the storytelling, script, communication, presentation. It's not just a one thing, like it's not just everything that College of Business does, right?
Hmm.
So it's really about trying to attract. So we are desperate to find people from other colleges to be a part of this. To make this point, our national winning team this year, which also presented in Bangkok, the five presenters, their backgrounds were entrepreneurship, supply chain management of business, but then political science, correct, social work, and biology.
Hmm.
Those are the five backgrounds of the people. And I think the team couldn't have been better because of that. So it is so important to get the perspective from different backgrounds and
Hmm.
have the people to understand this is not just a business organization. In Whitewater, it might reside in the business school, but that's probably because of me more than
Right,
anything
right.
else. But in many of the universities, they have amazing chapters that are running out of communications and social work and so on.
Hmm. So speaking of residing in the business school, how long have you worked with the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater?
So Whitewater, I've been here since 2001. So
Since
this is my
2001.
this is my 25th plus year.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
thank you.
That's huge. So you are an advising with Enactus. You're on the board of combat blindness. What keeps you invested in this work?
I think Enactus made a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I look back and the Bangkok thing was, and I think I've come and mentioned this to multiple people when I got back. I had this feeling of peace
Hmm.
that we had reached. I'd love to kind of go back and win a World Cup. I think that takes a whole different level
Sure, sure.
because the global teams are just incredible what they're doing. In fact, I recommend people to go check out some of the videos online
Mhm.
because they post them on YouTube. But yes, I mean that would happen. But I'm very satisfied with what we've done at the company we have launched and the difference we have made. I think it's an amazing story from UW-Whitewater. So
Well,
it,
and from a new chapter in 2009, you said,
that's correct.
to two national titles. I mean, that's huge progress from zero to winning America.
It was
That's
not fast enough for me, but
nothing ever is, right? We need that more.
right, right. No, but we are in a very good place right now.
Mhm.
We have a great advisory board. They fund us and guide us and so on. We've got multiple mentors helping the students, and just a great group of students. And many of them who are part of the national winning team this year, and they went to Bangkok, so now they're hungry for even
Right,
more. Yeah.
right. So you said something in an article that also stuck with me in addition to the earlier music quote. Your quote was, "This generation is looking at wasteful packaging and trying to find a way to make it all work in balance, create jobs, satisfy customers, but solve problems." So my question is, do you really think that this generation approaches business differently?
100% yes.
Tell me
I
more.
think, yeah, I think there was a phase, or and maybe there's some people still do this. They come to college because they want to get a job.
Hmm.
I'm seeing a difference. And I'm seeing a difference, and not only because I'm surrounded by an active students. I have other people who come and meet me in my office and stuff. They are looking to make a difference. They want to do more, and it's very interesting having conversations with the students. So when they look at businesses, the filters they're putting on are quite a bit different, and it's actually a warning sign for all of us as faculty and
Hmm.
mentors and stuff, because we have our biases, and I have my biases, and I
Absolutely,
look
we
at
do.
something
Right.
correct, and the students will say, no, but do you see it this way? I'm like, oh, I missed that, right? And that's what I think, being around them is so interesting, because they give you those different perspectives. And we can always say that, hey, they're being very immature or young and stuff and things like that. But sometimes the wisdom that comes across, just the way they look at stuff, because everybody's coming from such different backgrounds, it's profound. And that's why I said it's so fulfilling, because it's a to and fro, and you actually learn from them.
Hmm.
So,
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
sure.
So, what's next for UW and Enactus? You're a national champion. You've just competed at the World Cup. Where do you go from here?
I've been trying to tell them they need a new advisor, because what they need is somebody who's going to bring them new perspectives and new directions. And I'd love to see an advisor from across campus, from
Hmm.
one of the other colleges, because I think it'll make us 50 times better,
Right.
bringing that perspective. And yeah, I think I'd love to see, at least on the advisory side, that should happen. On the student side, I think we have made a decision. We're going to be focusing more on projects in USA. I mean, that was a
Hmm.
big takeaway this year, that it's great to do these international projects and go into that, but there's other teams across the world, and it's almost like an insult to them. The Enactus team is coming and saying, Enactus USA is coming in and solving problems in India or Guatemala,
Hmm.
both of which are very strong teams, by the way. Enactus India has won the World Cup at one point. So for us, I think there's so much to do in USA. If you look around, I personally have been nudging the students, focusing on rural innovation.
Hmm.
I think there's so much work to be done in the rural area. I think Whitewater and Whitewater Enactus could really be a dominant player in that.
Hmm. Wonderful. Well, just I've asked all of my questions. So, what haven't I asked you that you'd like to talk about Enactus or anything else?
I think you did there were a couple of really cool questions
No,
there,
thank you.
which I'll have to think about those again and maybe redo them. I think the one big, just a suggestion I would make
Hmm.
is, there's a podcast, we're in a podcast. So I'm going to
Yes, yeah.
recommend an interesting podcast. It's called No Stupid Questions. And there's particularly one episode. It's called, What is the Similarity Between Tom Sawyer and the Founder of Duolingo? I
Okay.
would highly, highly recommend people, especially the first half. The second half talks about research. You can listen to it; it's pretty good. But the first half is genius about business models, where it talks to the guy who designed CAPTCHA. The thing
Yes.
that we fill to kind of
Hmm.
go into getting an email address, and the same guy went and built Duolingo. Look at the way he designed the business models of his company, and it was just like I literally had to pull over in my car when I was first listening to it. I said, "This is genius," right?
Hmm.
So there's these couple of these things like that which are really powerful, because I think if you apply that with things you already know, you can see some amazing results. And the other book that I recommend to my students is something called the Go Giver.
Hmm.
It's a little red book, and it's available on YouTube to listen, about 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
Highly recommend it to understand what we're about and where this next generation is headed. It's not a go getter, it's about go giver. And it's about using business and stuff to, again, as a force of good.
Hmm. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Sure.
I will definitely take you up on that and I'll listen to that other podcast and maybe even read a book. So thank you. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having
And
me.
that is it. And we look forward to seeing you across campus.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to Campus Pulse. And Choton, thank you for showing our students and all of us what business can be when it's rooted in purpose. If you want to learn more about UW-Whitewater Enactus or get involved, visit uwwenactus.us. And if your business looking to partner on projects that make a difference, reach out. They'd love to hear from you. That's uwwenactus.us. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss out on what we're uncovering next. Campus Pulse is part of the Warhawk Business Voices podcast network. You can find all of our shows and transcripts at uww.edu/Kobe/podcasts. I'm Jessica Berge, and I'll see you next time.